Tagid Shalom.
Shalom.
Wow, it's great to be back here. Garitzmar. It's Friday, and I'm here with my granddaughter Hodaya,
Shalom.
and she's tell everyone Chodesh Tov. Chodesh Tov. Chodesh Tov means good new month, and it's so special to be here to give our lesson with this wonderful, precious granddaughter of mine. I'm going to say hello to everybody. Say hello, shalom, Otta.
Shalom.
Oh, and she's very special. She's my first granddaughter. I have two granddaughters and two grandboys, but she's the first granddaughter born to us. And she lives on Itamar, together with my other four grandchildren. And she's here to say hello at the opening of our lesson. So, עוד משהו את רוצה להגיד?
לא.
לא? למה לא? תסתכלי לשם, תגידי ככה, שלום.
Shalom.
I hope I can concentrate with this wonderful, precious little angel on my lap. It will be hard to concentrate in this week's portion, but we'll do our best to do our lesson anyway. So, Shabbat Shalom, it's great to be back, and let's get down to action. Hi again. I hope everyone enjoyed my wonderful granddaughter, Hodaya. I think she was a refreshing introduction for this week's lesson. Let's get right down into this week's portion. Parashat Tazriyah. It also happens to be the portion of Parashat Chodesh, the last of the four portions that we read. And I want to open up with a question. So it's fun to open up with questions. If we look in this week's portion, it opens up with talking about a woman who gives birth to a ben, to a son, or to a daughter, right? The different laws regarding how many different days she has to wait in her to purify herself and what she has to bring. And then right afterwards, it goes into the topic where out of the 67 or whatever verses in this whole portion, 59 of them are invested in talking about the leper, the mitzorah, beginning with the laws, which continues to next week's portion. A lot of times we read a double portion. This year we're reading a single because it's a leap year. But nevertheless, it's beginning talking about the leper in regards to leprosy on a person or on his garments. And next week we're going to talk about how does a person rectify leprosy and leprosy in a home. And all these verses in the Torah that talk about leprosy, of course, it requires an explanation. Why is there so many details involved in these particular laws? And we've mentioned this in the past. We've spoken about it. Today I want to open up with a midrash, a beautiful midrash, which is very known. A lot of people have heard this midrash before, but I'd like to read it. And it's brought down in different places. It's brought down in Tanchuma, in Midrash Rabbah, and in different versions, but they're all basically the same. And it says like this. Ma'aseh, there was a story. Berochel achad, a person who is a rochel in Hebrew means someone who is a what's the word I'm looking for? I said rochel in Hebrew. I'm trying to translate to English. Someone who sells his wares, like a merchant. And the rochel achad sheyam machazir ba'ayarot, and he would go around to different cities. Shayu smuchot letzipori, that were next to Tzipori. Tzipori is a city in the north near Tiberias. Vayam machriz va'omer, and he would announce and he would say, Man bai lemizban sam chayim. You know how they do it, these merchants, if you go to the market, they're yelling out, who wants to buy this? 20 shekels, 30 shekels. They're running out and offering a certain sale. And he comes out and says, who wants to purchase the sam chayim, the what's it called? A sam in Hebrew is a remedy of life. Who wants to purchase the remedy of life? Right? A sam could also be medicine, the medicine of life. So he's trying to sell something, and he's trying to sell the medicine, the remedy of life. Od kinalei. So people in the market, wherever he was in that area, began to look at him. It's a little bit Aramaic. It's a mixture. The Midrash Rabbah is a combination of Hebrew and Aramaic. So some of the words you may recognize if you know Hebrew and Aramaic. Rabbi Yanai. So Rabbi Yanai, one of the Amoraim, one of the rabbis, Havayatevu Fashit Betokeline. He was sitting and he was studying Pshuto Shemikah, the simple understanding of the verses in his particular whatever corner where he was in a room. It literally means it could be a traklin, a palace, but obviously he had to be in the area. He was in his particular room, but he had to be awake and hear this person announce. And it says, Shamei Damachis, and he heard that this particular merchant was selling something, listening with an ear. Man bai sam chayim, who wants to buy the remedy of life? Who wants to purchase this remedy of life? Amar le taksak lahacha. So he said to him, come up here, come over here. Invited him to his area, his room. Guess he looked out the window, he called him in, whatever it was. He said, come here. And Zabali, I want to buy that remedy of life. Amar le lav ant tzarich le vela dekavatach. He goes, you know something? You don't need this, and no one like you needs this. In other words, Rav Yana was a great rabbi. He goes, this is something that you don't need. You have it already. You don't need this. Atrachala selik legabei. But anyway, he was pressing him to come up, and he wanted to make this purchase. Although he didn't need it, but the guy said, please come. I want you to come up. Hotzi lo sefer Tehillim. So what did he do? He took out the book of Psalms. Heralo pasuk, and he shows him a verse that says, Mi haish. Who is the man? Hechafetz chayim, who loves life. Who is the man who loves life? There's a verse in Psalms we all know. It's a famous verse in Tehillim. Maktiv bate. What does it say right after that verse? It says, Nitzol leshoncha meira. Watch over your tongue from speaking evil. So if you look in Psalms 34, verse 13, you will see that whole verse. Mi haish hechafetz chayim, nitzol leshoncha. Put something over your mouth. When? Nitzol leshoncha meira, from evil. So meira v'asei tov, move away from evil and do good. Which means, it's offering, is saying you should pay attention to this verse. If someone wants to live and truly connect to the meaning of life, nitzol leshoncha meira, trap it, close it, keep your mouth away from evil. Amar Rav Yanai av Shlomo machiz v'omer. He has another verse from King Solomon in Mishlei, Proverbs. If you look at Proverbs 21:23, shomer piv v'leshono, the person who watches his mouth and his tongue, shomer mitzarot nafsho, he watches over for trouble for himself, which means he keeps himself out of trouble. If he watches his tongue and his mouth, he's going to stay out of trouble. Amar Rabbi Yanai, so Rabbi Yanai, this rabbi who wanted to purchase and buy this special medicine, he says to him, Kol yamai hayiti korei pasuk. It's my whole life I'm reading this verse in Psalms 34. Velo hayiti yodea, and I didn't know. Hechan hu pashut, and I didn't know the simple meaning. Ad shabar ochel ezevadei, until this simple merchant comes along, and tells me, he didn't call him simple, I mentioned that accidentally, he wasn't a simple person. Someone who's selling an understanding of a verse like this and who lives that is not a simple person. Well, simple meaning of wholeheartedly with God. And he says, Mi haish hachafetz chayim, lefichach Moshe mazir et Yisrael v'omer lehem. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu says to Israel, Zot hiya Torah mitzorah. What is a mitzorah? A leper. Torah motzi shem ra. Someone with the same letters of mitzorah is motzi shem ra, someone who takes out of his mouth an evil tongue, which means the same letter. It's an acronym for someone who speaks evil. If you take the Hebrew letters in the word leper, mitzorah, motzi, to take out, shem ra, a bad name, means you're talking evil. In other words, Rav Yanai, now what was the whole thing? Okay, he showed him a verse in Psalms, but the point is, our whole life we could read verses and they don't have any impact on us. The fact that this Rochel, this merchant, was yelling out, who wants to live? Who wants to purchase this medicine of life? And he says, Mi haish hachafetz chayim. Who's the person who loves it? Nitzol leshoncha. Clam it. Don't talk evil. Amazing. So here, at this moment in his life, as we say, it went in, it sunk in. He realized how important this is, how profound this statement is. That if we want to live, what life is all about is connected to guarding our tongue. Now, this right away connects to what I opened up with. This week's portion opens up with talking about a few verses about a woman giving birth. But right away it goes on to this long discourse and continues to next week's portion, all about the laws of a leper. What is the connection? Why did it have to bring in this week's portion a woman giving birth for? It seems to be completely irrelevant to the connection. the next part of what's going on. And one explanation I heard, the beautiful Rabbi Baruch, one of the rabbis I enjoy listening to, and he had a very interesting chidush, Rabbi Baruch Rosenblatt. He said that a woman giving birth, he connected it to the whole concept. I think, well, don't get me wrong if I didn't remember everything I heard, but I think he tried to connect the concept of that life. Life is really dependent upon our tongue. So it sort of connects. Giving birth is really bringing life into the world. So bringing life into the world is all about guarding our tongue. And that's why the two things come together. Everything about life, everything about bringing a child into the world actually is all connected to our tongue and how we speak. And this gets much deeper. And if we look into the beginning of the Torah, when God created man, God says, the Torah says, "Vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim," and God blew within his nostrils the breath of life. And the famous Onkelos, the Targum, the one who translates the Torah in Aramaic, who happens to be a convert, one of the greatest Torah giants, amongst our sages in history. He says, he translated, "Vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim ruach mimalala." What is ruach mimalala? Mimalala. Sometimes these are tongue-tied. Your tongue gets also tied. Mimalala in Aramaic means to speak. Because the power of speech, by God blowing into man, a soul really gave him the power of speech. Which is so interesting. Because if we think about it, the Talmud talks about it in this Masechet Nidah, in one of the tractates, it talks about how the development of a embryo within the mother's womb. And it's interesting when in the womb itself, we have the Talmud teaches us that the embryo, this child that develops in the womb, learns the entire Torah. It's able to see from one end of the world to the other end of the world and knows the entire Torah. But when it's born, an angel hits it on that's why we have a little thing over here, an indentation on our lip, above our lip, and we forget the Torah. We have to work hard to learn the Torah. So the Maharami Prague explains this in a beautiful, profound way in the Tiva Tshuva, in the chapter in his section dealing with repentance, and he explains in his book called Netivot. He says something amazing in the Maharal. He says, what does it mean when a person, again, before he's born, in reality, doesn't have a physical body yet. So therefore, the entire Torah is so clear to him. He's able to connect to the spiritual realm. But when he's born, what happens is the neshama entering his body, the soul entering his body, that's the angel hitting him and forgetting everything. Because the minute a person connects to the physical world, he has to relearn all that Torah, because now he has to deal with that physical world. But what's amazing, what happens when a baby's born? The first thing the baby does when it's born, the baby cries. The crying of the baby explains, the Maharal, I think it was Maharal, the crying of the baby, he explains, refers to, that's the first speech. The speech of life. When God, again, he breathed into man the breath of life. He gives a child. That soul, and that child again begins his life. The speech begins to open. And that, of course, begins the rectification process, where he is going to eventually, as it says in the Torah, Adam le'amal yulad. It says in the Torah, it says that a man was born to work. What kind of work? And the Talmud in Sanhedrin explains to us, the kind of work we have to do in this world is work of speech. Amal Torah, v'amal tefillah. Working hard in prayers and working hard in our Torah. And this is the kind of work, the most important work we have to do in this world. Everything else around us, our lives and building, we have to survive, we have to, of course, make a living and all those other things, but they're all secondary to the most important thing, our speech in Torah and our speech in prayer. And that's where we have to invest. That is really the sum of Chaim. If we want to really connect to life. Life is all about our studying Torah and our praying to Hashem and connecting to the Creator of the universe. And who gave us the power of speech. That really differentiates us between the animals, the animal kingdom. We all, as human beings, are connected through the power of speech. And how much danger and how much damage comes out of someone speaking evil. And the examples go on forever. We see how the media, which includes the radio, the television, the papers, what goes on amongst politicians in the world leaders, how one is coming against the other and all about speaking evil about the other person. But here, the Torah is telling us so clearly and so loudly, Mi ha'isha chafetz chayim. This is what the Midrash, the person who really wants true life, litzol lishoncha meira. Watch your tongue. Watch your evil tongue. Don't speak evil. And we have to work on this. How many people in a second, the minute you start talking about, we call in Yiddish, narishkeit, stupid things. A friend comes over, you start sitting down in a minute, yalla, 2 minutes later, someone's coming up, talking about this one, getting involved in stupid political discussions. Everything should always be looking at your friend, looking at your individual, your fellow man, your fellow lady, your fellow whatever, looking at each other with constant, anyways, that's what I'm saying, in the eyes of looking good, looking at the person with understanding, with love, with not wanting to, God forbid, speak evil. But the opposite, always try to find something good about that person to say. When you look at your neighbor in the morning, you want to say something bad about your neighbor. Wait, let me try to find something that he's done good. And focus on that. Well, think about it. Sometimes when you start focusing on the good, also you're going to slip over to something else. Focus on the good. That's really what God is teaching us. And that is what this is all about. There are so many laws here. But when a woman gives birth and has this beautiful baby, so my little Hodaya, my little granddaughter, you have a little beautiful child that you bring down to the world. You want this child to be raised in goodness, and teaching Torah, and prayer, and love, and not, God forbid, when people raise their children, an atmosphere of talking evil about one another, and entering uncleanliness into that life of that child, and then, God forbid, it can end up the mitzorah, as that terrible, terrible tragedy when a leper, what is a leper? A leper has to, we will discuss in next week's lesson of what happens, how he has to go outside of the camp, and he can't pray, and he can't do anything basically. He's like completely in mourning. Terrible tragedy when he has to go through the birds. They symbolize the birds who speak, chirping, chattering. It's all about the evil. It's all about the evil tongue. And how important, it seems such a minor thing, but we see in the Torah makes such an emphasis. That's why there are so many verses, massive verse usage referring to this whole commandment about the leprosy, because it is all about our life. This is what our lives are all about. It is the most important thing, if you can say, of the Torah, is how do we use our speech, our power of life given to us. Ishaki Tazriyah, when a woman gives birth, it begins. That's where it begins. Until the last day we're on this earth, let us look for life and cherish life by speaking good and using our tongue for Torah and for only prayers and good things. Shabbat Shalom, B'sarot Tovot, Yeshuot V'Nechamot.
Shabbat Shalom.